Welcome back. I'm prepared to be bedazzled because today I'm going to be shedding light on my story appertaining to working my first minimum wage employee job in the restaurant industry at a gross wage of $6.55 per hour at age 16, that had hazardous employee working conditions in the land of Draconian slavery and Draconian oppression. So how was it, you may ask? Without further ado, without further delay, without further procrastination, allow me to demystify the answer to that inquiry right here, right now. Lamentably, much to my dismay, much to my consternation, much to my chagrin, much to my grief, much to my agony, much to my agitation, much to my irritation, my experience working my first minimum wage employee job in the restaurant industry at a gross wage of $6.55 per hour at age 16. I had hazardous employee working conditions in the land of Draconian slavery and Draconian oppression was ineffably, egregiously abysmal, and no facet as I detested and disdained working the aforementioned minimum wage employee job in the restaurant industry at a gross wage of $16.55 per hour at age 16, that had hazardous employee working conditions in the land of Draconian slavery and Draconian oppression. So I was recalcitrant about working the aforementioned job. However, my parent wanted me to do so. Prior to the advent of working the aforementioned minimum wage employee job, I earned anywhere between $2,100,000 to $2,300,000 video views on my YouTube channel. However, it was not enough to furnish me with an opportunity to be monetized on my YouTube channel. At this juncture, I deduced that it was a corollary of my older videos being raw gameplay videos. So had I integrated commentary into all the gameplay videos that I produced at age 16, then perhaps it would have rendered me eligible to qualify to have a monetized YouTube channel at age 16. So I was reticent to work this job. It did not offer any benefits nor any pensions, and all it offered was a gross wage of $6.55 per hour. As per the hazardous working conditions, it exposed me to secondhand smoke, so I was exposed to hazardous carcinogens, deleterious neurotoxins, and perilous endocrine disruptors. This job imperiled me because being exposed to secondhand smoke can truncate your life expectancy by at least 14 to 15 years. Certain customers reveled in smoking outside the restaurant, and certain employees relished smoking outside the restaurant. The restaurant had outdoor dining. As a busser there, I was quite hired in to fulfill multiple jobs. I would not only fulfill the jobs of 2 to 3 bussers, but I would also be quite hired in to fulfill the role of a server. However, the customers seldom tipped the bussers. All the servers there would do is jot down the food orders and subsequently bring out the entrees and appetizers to the customers. The bussers would not only be tasked with hauling the trays of dishes to the kitchen, but they'd also be tasked with jotting down the beverage orders and subsequently preparing the beverages for the customers before bringing out the beverages to the customers. I'm under the axiom that the restaurateur was keen on minimizing his labor costs. Would I deem the aforementioned job to be a dead-end, highly time-depleting, debilitating, minimum wage, dispiriting, unfulfilling, undesirable, harrowing, distressful, brutally wretched, ineffably agonizing job in all facets? I unequivocally would deem it to be. An abysmal job to work in all aspects. Sustaining the job required incessant, heavy lifting throughout the employee shifts. It would have been less cumbersome to sustain working the employee job if the quantity of bussers doubled. However, the restaurant manager was aptly disinterested in onboarding additional bussers into the restaurant. If he were to hire additional bussers into the restaurant, then it would amplify his employee labor costs. So, working this aforementioned job was almost tantamount to working for free. It provides you with a 0% chance to attain financial stability and financial security if it's your only source of emolument. And it was ineffably cumbersome to sustain working even for a single employee shift because of the constant heavy lifting and exposure to carcinogens, neurotoxins, and endocrine disruptors. I was profusely exposed to secondhand smoke amid my employee shifts at my first minimum wage employee job in the restaurant industry. When you're being furnished with a gross wage of $6.55 per hour by working a dead-end, highly time-depleting, debilitating minimum wage, dispiriting, unfulfilling, undesirable, harrowing, distressful, brutally wretched, and ineffably agonizing job, then it does not offer you enough purchasing power to be able to afford to even temporarily attain an extremely low standard of living. If you receive a gross wage of $6.55 per hour by working a minimum wage employee job, then it's going to furnish you with a negligible amount of purchasing power, and it doesn't provide you on a trajectory to receive a pension. Most real private sector employee jobs based on voluntary demand do not offer any benefits nor pensions, and almost all the profits that companies generate are reserved for their shareholders, executives, and external directors. We do not want your earnings potential to be capped at an infinitesimal minimum wage. You do not want your earnings potential to be tethered to your finite and valuable, precious, sacrosanct time. You want your earnings potential to be uncapped and unfettered. So, after the deem this video to be riveting, captivating, mesmerizing, insightful, enthralling, intriguing, amusing, and engrossing, I hope that you're entrenched in the unalloyed epicness. Thanks for watching. Have a blissful day.